So I have given this talk before. Raise your hand if you've heard me talk on this topic already. Oh, okay, not as many as I was thinking. But even lucky for you, I'm going to change it up a little bit. We're actually going to play negotiation the game. So be ready, be ready. We're at 15 minutes. So we don't have time for this. Go look at my LinkedIn, connect with me, send me a question if you ever need advice about interviewing or negotiation. I'm always happy to get on a call with you, pass things along. We got to move forward, okay? Here's what I'm doing right now. I started a business with my buddy Adam Dangor. I'm Lusen Mendel. And we're interview and negotiation coaches. We help people get jobs, ace their interviews, negotiate their offers, and when they get a nice, when they succeed, we succeed. So we try to align our interests. And I'm happy to talk about that more too. But for now, let's do free advice and play a game. So here's the thing. I also like to talk about, how do you answer that pesky question, what compensation are you looking for, like at the application stage? We're gonna skip that because we don't have time for it, okay? But the simple thing here is just to keep in mind that you are not negotiating until you have an offer in your hand. And we can have, there's gonna be a ton that changes. When you're applying for a job, your main goal is to get an interview because they don't know who you are yet. So, you want to get that interview, and once you get an initial offer, whether it's written or often in the tech world, they'll just have a conversation with you. They want to figure out the details before they draw up the paperwork. That's what you're going to negotiate, and that's what we're going to talk about today, right now. And so, interview stage, I have very little to say about negotiation there, but it actually does matter a great deal because they don't know who you are really when you're applying. Even with a referral, the referrals are really nice. But if you can prepare and do a wonderful job with your interview and knock the socks off of them, they're going to really care about you by the time they're giving you an offer. And that's leverage that you can use a little bit, and so that's nice. So do prepare. We actually invest a lot in how you tell your story and present yourself in preparation for getting a nice kind of anchor point at the first offer. Okay, but let's dig into the negotiation part, okay? This is going to be fun. So before I get into the scenarios, just at a high level, here's what's going to happen, right? Recruiter or someone says, oh, hey, we're so excited to give you this offer. And your response is to always be positive, okay? Don't lose sight of that, right? Because maybe there's a stereotype, right, in negotiation that, you want to be a little cagey. If they think you're desperate, if they think you really want this, you'll lose your leverage. And look, in this case, where you're trying to create a healthy, long-term relationship with this company and these people here, they actually just want to know, this recruiter or whoever you're talking with is kind of busy, and they just want to know that you're still in it. You don't want that momentum to have a lull all the way through the process, application, interviewing. So when someone says, hey, we want to give you an offer, you want them from this point forward to think that they are your #1 company, even if mismatch, maybe they're not. Don't let them know, okay? Don't let that lull happen, right? Because what you're trying to do is, they're offering you what you're trying to find a match, not a mismatch, right? And so you want them to think that's possible, and they're going to be working just as hard as you to get there. So be positive, but just because you're positive does not mean that you've made any decision, that you've said yes. Don't say yes or no until you mean it. Okay? Before we get to that point, we're going to do two things, right? One is assert what you want. You can't have a negotiation if the other person doesn't know that there's some common ground that needs to be found. And you're going to ask questions and explore options and get more information so you make a more informed decision. Decision. Okay? So here's what it's going to look like. What we have is the range. Like there's some amount of money that this company is willing to pay someone to do this job. It doesn't matter. It's not depending on, if they're more productive, we'll pay you more. It's just what they would be okay paying someone to do this job. And you're going to need to figure out two numbers before you go into this negotiation call. This is what you got to figure out. First number, what's the lowest compensation that you would accept? And I'm just going to talk about compensation here. There's many things you might care about, whatever. Make a list of those 3 to 5 things. Maybe it's benefits, maybe it's PTO, maybe it's equity. And you can use this advice for all of those things. Whatever's the most important thing, you talk about that first. And then you're going to move on to the second thing and so forth, okay? But we're just going to talk about salary to make it easy. What's the lowest you would accept? If they give you an offer that's beneath that, you know already, because you don't want that cognitive load in the moment. It's going to be stressful enough. You know already that that doesn't work for you. The other number is the happy number. That's the number where you're like, yay, I'm so excited about this job and what they're offering me. And so in between that, you'd be a little disappointed, but you'd get over it. Because negotiation is not about always getting what you want. It's just about exploring the space and having a nice conversation so that you feel good about it afterwards. And you feel like, this was, that you understood that you're making a big life decision and you went through it intentionally. And also, by the way, you don't always have to negotiate. It's just you're intentionally exploring a space, and you might sometimes decide not to. Okay, so we're going to go through the 3 scenarios, what to do when this initial offer is falling above or in the middle or below those 2 numbers. Okay, and one of the hardest things is to figure out those numbers, right? When I do this as a workshop, people share like what holds them back from negotiating. They're like, I don't actually know what to expect. It's so hard to get this information for real. There's a lot of research you're going to want to do, but I just want to say at the end of the day, negotiation is not actually a game. You're going to have to live with the consequences, and those numbers are going to come from within. There's a lot of research you can do. Glassdoor was already mentioned. Internet. There's anonymous spreadsheets. There's Slack communities. There's Quora. There's talking to your network. There's trying to find someone who works at or used to work at some company and at least ask them for some general information about how things work, if not their actual salary. Do they offer signing bonuses? There's a lot of research you can do, but it's a complicated space. Everything is a unique snowflake. So soul searching is you're gonna have to do a lot of soul searching. But what you want to avoid is if your numbers are way below what they're gonna pay you, in some ways, like, yay, it's a nice surprise. But you're not really gonna be playing the same game. Like you're in a different reality, and so that might, there's not a lot of risk that you're gonna want to take if the offer's above your happy point, and so you might be missing out unintentionally, and then you'd be sad, 6 months later when you figure that out. And you don't want to be super high because then you've just wasted everyone's time. So do the research. Okay, so some recruiter say he's gonna talk to you after your interviews and say, I'm thrilled to give you this fantastic offer with amazing benefits, and the first thing you do, regardless of how you feel, is thank you, I'm so excited to have the chance to work here. And you've both put in a lot of time and energy, be positive, and hopefully it's at least somewhat genuine. Okay, we're gonna go through those 3 scenarios, and then we're gonna do the game. And we're gonna do 5 minutes for the game, okay? So we're gonna fly through this. Scenario 1, your happy point is at 150. The offer is above that. I'm gonna spend a very little time here because mostly this is like yay. But hey, like I said, sometimes things, you don't know if your expectations are meaningful, right? Or like accurate, quote unquote, right? Maybe you're just really humble or misinformed. So what I like to do is say, is there any room for negotiation on that? The recruiter you're talking to might say, nope, we've actually gone above the range for you. You're earning more than anyone at your level or at the whole company or whatever. They might just say like, no, there's no room. And then you say, presumably because we are trying to reduce risk here, right? You just say like, oh, well, that's fine. Like, thank you. And so what about a signing bonus or whatever your number 2 thing is? You can also, but they might say a lot of times when you ask, hey, is there any room for negotiation? The person's like, well, what were you thinking? Okay, and then just add, 5 or 10,000. Pick that number. And say like, well, and you can use the same tips that we're going to go over in scenario 2, like, oh, based on my research, or this is what I was looking for. Could we round up to 170? Something kind of light and fun, right? And whatever they say, they might say yes. They might say, well, I could meet you at 167. In which case, I'd be like, that is really a funny number. Can we round up to 170? Hey, this is a true story, 90,000 offer. Hey, I like round numbers. Can we do 100,000? Yes. Okay, anyway, you're gonna say that sounds great no matter what, right? Because again, you're not trying to introduce a lot of risk or back and forth, and you move on, okay? Scenario 2 gets a little more interesting. You have a happy point. The offer comes in. It's above your minimum, so you would take this job. And the important thing here is that you never want this recruiter to think, or this person you're talking with, to think you wouldn't accept this offer, because you would. Okay, that said, you also never want to reveal your minimum until the very end if you have to. But the point is that you're going to want to try to negotiate that up. And you don't want to talk about 150. You don't want to badmouth 150. You want to say, look over here at 165. That I'm looking at roles around 165. There's so many phrases. If you go to my Twitter, I just posted the slides. So you can go and have a look at more of those options for the game. But there's lots of great statements. Is there any way we can get close to that? Here's the, I don't like to use ranges unless the ranges are really far above what you're looking for, because you're getting your hopes up for the high point and they're thinking about the low point. So around a number works a lot better, but you can use a range if it's, if you're really just expecting 160. Can we meet in the middle? Classic negotiation, right? Why not give that a try? Even better, how high can you go? Because that's what you really want to know, right? Just ask that, shut up. It's, you're not being a bully. It's their job. They're used to this. They're going to reveal what they want to reveal. But, hey, that's actually what you want to know. And you can do this all politely, right? Okay, we'll move on. Scenario 2B, real quick. What if the number is like a lot lower? You're like, oh no, it's still above your minimum, because maybe sometimes roles, there's a lot of uncertainty in certain situations, right? If you were to say, oh, I'm looking at roles at 165, right? That recruiter's like, oh, that's not gonna work. We're too far apart. I'll spend my energy elsewhere, Just reset, just make your happy 20,000 more. Okay, or this can be a little custom. This isn't unilateral advice, but there may be times where you need to reset your happy point and then just use the rest of the scenario 2 points, okay? End game is that you might move it up a little bit, and you know what, this is not important for activity, because in our game you're gonna have to accept during the conversation, okay? So that's after the class question. Okay, scenario 3. Am I doing on time? Okay, it's gonna be a little tight, guys. Scenario B is the offer is below your lowest. If you were to end this conversation with this recruiter, maybe you try to negotiate it up. You treat it like a scenario 2. The recruiter doesn't know that you're not going to accept it, but you hope that you can get it to the 150. But if you can't, you don't want to end that conversation and say, well, thank you. I'm gonna think about it and get back to you. The ball is still in your court. Okay? You have to tell the recruiter that's not going to work so that they can take that ball and try to do something with it. And they might not be able to do anything. Okay? At the end of the day, you're going to have an offer and you're going to have to make a decision about it. But what you can do is say, just make sure you say something about how this doesn't work for me. I'd love to join, but that, not at that number. You basically are going to have to reveal your minimum and say, can we get here? Because I'm not going to say yes otherwise. And you're just trying to do this in a nice and polite way. This is kind of self-advocacy. I love this phrase. Whatever doesn't work for me. Okay. I think we might have to take this activity as homework. Okay, I'm gonna explain it to you guys, and then I would love for you to try it with a friend, with an enemy. Let me know how it goes.
A frenemy.
Exactly. Or a recruiter. No. No, recruiter's actually your friend. They're really gonna be the person advocating for you and with you on this. So I'm just gonna go over it, try it, let me know how it goes, and if you actually wanna practice whatever real scenario you are encountering, let me know, and I will, I'm happy to schedule time to go through a real situation, to do some real role play, and I'll play the recruiter. The main thing is that, as the candidate, your goal is to get the best offer you can. You can't accept an offer below your minimum, but you really want to accept this job, okay? And so there's these different personas that you just pick at random. It's going to give you your happy number and your minimum, okay? And you can use all the techniques in all these phrases. The more you practice saying these phrases, don't be embarrassed to say them. They're really great phrases. And the recruiter, I've given a lot more guidance because I think that's something we have less experience with. The main thing is that your goal is to get the candidate to accept a job that's below. So you have your initial offer you're going to start with, then you have your own happy max, and however far under that happy max you get the candidate to accept, you get paid that much money. You get a little bonus. It's constructed for this game. This isn't necessarily true life. You also have an absolute max. You could go above. Exceptions unfortunately happen quite a bit. But so you have this absolute max, but if you go over, then you lose money. Okay? You want to close this candidate. That's going to be really important to you. So anyway, that's the game. We don't have time to play now. I'm so sorry, guys. I got your hopes up. But maybe after the next talk, which is going to be amazing, I'm happy to do more of this. Thank you so much.